Hi, it's Kyle from Bitewing Games, and today we're learning how to play Shuffle and Swing, designed by Robert Hovakimyan and published by us here at Bitewing Games. In Shuffle and Swing, you're a mouse helping to create instruments for giants. Your goal is to build instruments by placing your tokens here on the instrument boards. At the end of the game, you will score based on how much of the instrument you have built. But building the instrument isn't enough. You need to brag about how much you've built the instrument to get the credit you deserve. So if you've built 6 pieces, you should get 12 points, but you only bragged once, so you'll just score 4 points. And if you've bragged 4 times, but only built 2 pieces, you'll still just score 4 points. So ideally you want to brag and build the same amount. Aside from the end game scoring, the instruments all score in a unique area majority type way, which I'll describe in just a little bit. But for now, let's jump to the setup and then we'll get into the gameplay. Place the board in the center of the table. Select 3 instruments to play with. Each instrument has little notches here, so they'll slot into the correct place. Each of these locations will be filled with actions. Find the 4 action wheels with the matching cat colors. Here I have the 4 orange cat wheels. Randomly place them into these slots. Do the same for the black and gray cats. Place a black inspector mouse on each of the purple inspect locations. Place the boost tokens and cat tokens around the board. The player who most recently played an instrument takes the first player token. Each player takes a player board and the matching colored pieces. A mouse pawn, cubes and discs, build and upgrade pieces, and dice. Place the dice with the 1 pip face up. Each player begins with 1 cat in each color. Place a disc on the 0 space of the score track. Each player places a disc on the first space of each instrument board, in reverse turn order. So the player to the right of the start player places their disc first, and so on going counterclockwise. Place a cube next to the first space of each instrument. And we're ready to go. Before we dive right into the rules, let's do a quick overview of what's on the board and what the gameplay is like. You are working together to build the 3 instruments. Each instrument has an associated department with actions that you can take, like building the instrument. To take the action, you'll place your mouse in that department, activate a dice, and take that action, like building part of the instrument. And then you'll move the dice to the next open spot, ticking the die value up by 1. If your die is in the location that you activated, you gain a cat. If it is someone else's die, they gain the cat. And cats are the currency you'll need to build the instruments. So to build here, I need 3 orange cats. On your first turn, you will place your mouse onto one of the spaces. Note that this space is only available in a 4-player game. You can take one of the actions. Let's say you want to build. There are no dice present, so you can place one of your die here. Move the die to this location. This is a reminder that the owner of the die, in this case you, gains 1 orange cat from the supply. You now get to build. You have 1 black and 1 gray cat and 2 orange cats. The cost to build is shown here. So this location costs 1 gray cat, 2 gray cats, 3 black cats, 1 black cat. Let's look back at the die. It shows a value of 1. That means you can build just 1 piece. So you can afford either the 1 gray or the 1 black. You decide to go here, which costs 1 black cat. You don't discard the cats you spend. We're not savages here. They just need to take a little rest on your quilt. So place the cat, sleeping side up, on your quilt on any of the available spots to rest. Next, you'll tick the dice up to the next value and move it to the next clockwise open spot. In our game, pink goes next. They want to come to the piano as well, so they place their mouse here. They could choose to place their die here and use the build action. You can add die to open locations unless there are 3 other dice there, because then you wouldn't be able to move the dice to the next open spot. Alright, back to our example. Pink went here. They could place their own die here and build 1 piece. Or they could use your purple dice to build 2 pieces. Pink wants to do that. They move your die here and you gain an orange cat for it. They can build 2 pieces. They could build 1 black and 1 gray. But there are also upgrade pieces. After a piece has been built, You can upgrade it by placing one of your upgrade pieces around your build. Upgrades cost 1 less than the cost to build. So Pink could build 1 gray here and then upgrade it, for a total of 1 gray cat. They place their cat on their quilt board, tick the dice up to 3, and move it to the next open spot. I will note that you can only upgrade on a spot where you have built. You can't upgrade someone else's build. Blue goes next. They'd like to join in on the fun here, but this is just a 3-player game, so this department is full. They decide to go here, place their die on the build, gain a black cat, and build 1, spending their orange cat. They tick the die up to 2, and it's back to you, purple. Now that your mouse is on the board, it will stay there for the remainder of the game, hopping from one location to another. If this was a 4-player game, you could move here, but you can't stay in the same space, you have to move to an open location. And there are no open spaces here. You decide to move to the black cat department. And when you move, think of your mouse walking from here to here through just one break room. It may not seem important, but the mice always walk through just one single break room to get from one room to another. So you moved here, you could place your die here and build, but you want your black cat back. This action lets you refresh your cats. The value of the pip shows which row or column you get to refresh. So using green's die would let you refresh your cats in the 2-row or the 2-column. Let's say your quilt looked like this. Taking the 2 would let you refresh these cats or this cat. If the die were a 3, you could refresh these cats or these cats. Awake cats are put back in your personal supply of cats. You've maybe noticed that the dice are just a little bit unique with the 1, 2, 3, and then a separate 2, 3, 4 with star pips. These dice are supervisors, and once they've reached 3, they are ready for a break and to become specialists. So let's look at how this works. We'll say Pink moved from here to here. They activate the die, Green gets an orange cat, they refresh their 3-column. Normally the die would tick up and move to the next clockwise spot. But once it hits the 3, it is maxed out. As a reminder of this, the 3 is marked with a square. Move it to one of the adjacent break rooms. This supervisor dice is now more experienced and will move to the 2-star pip. When the owner of that die moves through that break room, they collect the die. Remember, when you move your mouse, they move in the shortest path, only passing one break room. So to collect the die, Green must move from this department to this department, or the other way around. Moving here does not let them collect their die. When Green collects their die, they get to brag about all of their hard work they've been doing. They can move up 2 spaces on a brag track, 2 spaces on the same brag track, or 1 space on 2 different brag tracks, whichever ones you choose. So here we are moving up a brag track. If you move onto a space with a symbol, you gain that boost token from the supply. We'll talk about the boost tokens in just a little bit. The next time that player puts out a die, they can put out one of their regular die as a 1, or they can put out their star die, starting at a 2. And that die goes up to a 4-star. After a 4-star gets activated, it will go to a break room and come back as a 2-star die. On occasion, you'll find that both adjacent break rooms are full. In that case, the active player chooses which break room that dice goes to. The die that is currently in that location is returned to the owner player, and that player gains 1 instead of 2 brags. Alright, we talked about the build and the refresh action. The last action shown here is the inspect action. If you take this action, you'll place the inspector mouse onto the instrument to inspect and reward players. The dice shows the number of spaces the inspector moves. So if you activate this die, the inspector will move 3 spaces. This is the first time the inspector is being used, so the first move is onto the instrument. Then the inspector will move 2 more spaces. Players who built on inspected locations earn points equal to the build cost. So here you'd earn 2 plus 2 points, and Green would earn 1 point. You do have to move the inspector mouse the exact number of spaces. Upgraded pieces count as an additional build. So let's say it looked like this. You would earn 2 points for the build, 2 points for the build, 2 points for the upgrade, and green would earn 2 points, 1 for the build and 1 for the upgrade. Keep track of these points here with your disc. Once an inspector is moved, she stays on the instrument. So the next time she is moved, she'll move from this location. She can't travel the same line multiple times in one movement, so you couldn't go 1, 2, 3. That's just cheating. If you build or upgrade on the spot where the inspector currently is, you score that immediately. Remember, upgrades cost 1 less to build, but they award the full amount of points when inspected. So upgrading here costs 1, but gives you 2 points immediately. Let's look at the quilt board. This shows the turn order. Move a mouse, select the die you are activating, and give that player a cat. Activate that ability, build, refresh, or inspect, and then tick up the dice and move it. So what's this symbol? Well, instead of taking the indicated action, you can instead brag at that instrument. So you'd still select a die and give that player the cat, but instead of, say, building, you could choose to brag, moving your disc up 1 space at that instrument. Remember to collect the boost tokens if you land on a space showing the symbol. The 3 instruments have cheese, ladders, and milk. So what do these do? The milk lets you refresh your cats in both the column and the row. So if you took this 4 dice, you'd normally refresh the column or the row. But if you spend a milk token, you'll refresh the 4 column and the row. The cheese lets you bribe the inspector mouse to skip a space. So if you activated the 2 die, you would normally move the inspector 1, 2 spaces. But if you used a cheese, you could skip this space, then move 1, 2 spaces, earning yourself more points by skipping over pink. Finally, the ladder. The ladder lets you upgrade another player's build piece. The ladder can also be used to change the color of 1 cat. So if you needed 3 orange cats, but only have 2, you could spend a ladder to change the cat's color for this turn. And you can use multiple boost tokens on a single turn. Alright, one thing we haven't looked at is instrument scoring. Each instrument will score at the end of the game, but there's also some ways they'll score throughout the game. Let's look at the piano. Each time one of these regions is completely surrounded by build tokens, that region scores. So when A is enclosed, the person who closed it earns 1 point per contributing piece, including upgrades. Everyone else scores 1 point for every 2 pieces. Each instrument has unique scoring, typically some form of area majority, and these are all outlined on the instruments and in the rulebook. If there's a tie on instrument majority, the player who is higher on the brag track wins the tie. And the player who got there first, the one whose disc is on bottom, is the final tiebreaker. The game will end once 2 of the instruments are completely built. Finish off the round so that each player has the same number of turns, and then on to final scoring. Final scoring is based on the brag tracks. For the finished instruments, count the number of pieces you have on that instrument, build and upgrades. Place your cube next to that number. So purple built 9 here, so they place their cube next to the 8. Then look at where your brag disc is. Score the lesser of the 2. So purple built 9, qualifying them for 15 points, but only bragged twice, so they earn 8 points. Here, pink bragged a lot, but only built 3, so they score 4 points. It's possible for the 3rd instrument to get built, since players will finish off the round, but lots of times the 3rd instrument won't get built, in which case someone has to take the blame for that. The player who bragged the least takes the blame and will lose 2 points per unbuilt space on that instrument. If players are tied for lowest on the brag track, they all lose 2 points per open space. And the player with the most points wins. In case of a tie, the player who went later in turn order is the tiebreaker and wins the game. Alright, for a 3-player game, there's just a few little differences. Use the unused color and place out a build piece on each instrument with the little square symbol shown here. When counting majorities for instrument scoring throughout the game, this 4th player competes for majority and will win all ties. And in a 2-player game, you'll actually use a neutral mouse that will move around, and some of their dice will be on the board as well, and that's all outlined in the rulebook. I'm not going to go over it here because this video is already long, and I'm tired. But now you know how to play Shuffle and Swing. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments below. Until next time.